Each day, these women are being victimized without much hope.
Turn that shit off.
The problem is big.
Get the camera out of here. Get it out of here. Seriously.
It's an industry that is in the shadows.
We do not do none of that.
Make these places accountable.
In 11 months, 9 illicit spas shut down, 6 women rescued from human trafficking, and now new state and city laws on the horizon.
All of this prompted by our 11-month investigation exposing illegal activity in spas across El Paso County. Good evening. I'm Bart Bedsole.
And I'm Heather Skold. Tonight, we premiere a special investigation, Hiding in Plain Sight. Our coverage, changing laws on the city and state level.
More to come on that. But before we dive in, a warning. We're dealing with adult themes involving very graphic information not suitable for children.
We don't sugarcoat the truth. Whether you call them houses of prostitution or brothels, the illegal activity is happening here, right in our own backyard.
Investigative reporter Stephanie Sierra has led this series. Tonight, she takes us back to where the investigation started, one that was hiding in plain sight.
We start tonight at Lucky Massage, located right across the street from our station along South 8th Street. And despite being neighbors, you could say our visit wasn't welcomed.
Hello?
Huh? Is Tina here?
No.
I'm Stephanie with News Channel 13 across the street.
I'm
We
sorry,
have a
I'm
question.
sorry.
No. Excuse me, ma'am. We have a number of questions for you.
This woman working inside didn't want to speak with us. She's one of around 70 women in Greater Colorado Springs working in a spa similar to this one.
Ma'am, are you aware there are very explicit reviews posted online that clearly suggest sex is for sale? Are you aware of that?
No.
No English will.
No English.
I want to leave these with you so you can see them.
Lucky is located in a shopping center, as most of the spas are in our area. And despite what this woman said, the proof of illicit behavior is all online, posted on a site called Rub Maps. The website only shows erotic spas or massage parlors by their own description. We bought a membership last winter in order to gain access to the reviews posted about each spa in southern Colorado. In nearly every case, reviews posted by men were extremely graphic, ranking the women on their nationality and appearance, like breast size, age, and willingness to have sex. The reviews also detail the cost for the massage and the additional cost for sex acts.
People dirty, some people stinky, I don't like that. I want to go home.
That's the voice of one woman we're referring to as Amy, who works inside Bangkok Thai Spa, one that has a long history of explicit sexual reviews dating back several years. Our surveillance showed the clientele frequenting these spas is all men. But I was able to get a massage in order to talk directly to these women.
I'm too tired with this.
You tired with your work?
Yeah, that's why I go back.
To go back? Yeah.
Back in February, we discovered Greater Colorado Springs had 36 active spas offering sex for sale.
Mr. Kraft, do you have a message to your fans?
Shortly after New England Patriots owner Robert Kraft was arrested along with more than 24 other men, video recorded having sex in a spa in West Palm Beach.
Investigators say they found an operation that relied on Asian women being used as sex workers.
The same type of spa we have here. We met with Mayor John Suthers about the issue, who directed us to meet with the newly appointed police chief, Vince Niski, and Lieutenant Mark Compt, who lead the Vice Squad, tasked to investigate prostitution and human trafficking.
They're selling sex. They're showing young girls wearing barely anything. So this business, when posting these ads, is demonstrating that it's a house of prostitution.
Lieutenant Compt and his team busted several spas in 2013 and 2014. But the busts didn't result in much. The women were charged with prostitution, which is a misdemeanor that only requires a fine. A price of doing business for these spas. Take Sang White, for example. She was arrested in 2014 for suspicion of human trafficking, pimping, and providing a place for prostitution. She pled guilty to prostitution, paid her fine, and weeks later went right back to running World Spa. We tried talking to White, but she never came to the door. Instead, we spoke to one of the workers.
Just curious, are you aware that there are reviews online saying that you can purchase sex acts here at this location? They're all right here. They're all right here on this. You can see it on this review right here, and you can see where it says sex acts for sale on this website right here.
No, we don't.
Well, it does say that.
We don't.
Are you?
I don't know where you get it.
And you're not worried about getting busted again?
We do not do none of that.
Here's the problem. Police tell us they could keep busting women like White and her staff for prostitution, but it doesn't solve the issue.
It's very sad. One, that their dignity is being stripped from them, and they don't even realize it.
The Vice Squad told us without better laws, it seems like a waste of time. During late winter and early spring, we started to do our own surveillance on the spas. The most notable factor? The clientele. Pretty much men, and more men. The busiest time? Right around noon, during the lunch hour.
How did you find out about this place?
I just literally Googled massage. It was nearby.
Yes, Google is one way, but most men use that site we mentioned earlier, called Rub Maps. The site is home to tens of thousands of reviews. Each one our team read was crafted in exhaustive detail at all hours of the night and into the wee hours of the morning. We learned that after surveilling 3 different spas at night, World Spa on March 26th, Paris Spa on April 2nd, and VIP Spa on April 25th. For each spa, we arrived at 8:30 at night, each one closing at 10, but we stayed another 3 hours until 1 in the morning, watching the front and back doors, just to see if any of the employees would leave. Each time, the outcome was the same. The men would leave at closing time, and the next morning, we'd often see a new review posted online.
They don't feel that there is something else that life has to offer them.
But the women never left, just occasionally came out for a smoke break.
They're actually living in the spa, mattress on the floor, lamps, a TV, maybe a hot plate, a microwave, a refrigerator with food in it.
These photos taken by police show inside a Colorado Springs spa. A sad reality, one that isn't uncommon. Most of the women we found working in these spas are living inside, under the control of their boss, also known as a mama-san. Mama-sans are older women who live with the workers, acting as an on-site manager. Our research indicates the passports and visas for these women are often held by the organization to prevent them from leaving. We saw it happen with Nagul and Wanpen Boonpraiser Peisel, the 2 arrested in 2014 for pimping, human trafficking, and keeping a place of prostitution during their time running Sawasati Bodyworks Spa. Inside parlors like theirs were cramped rooms, cluttered bathrooms, food stuffed in bins on the floor, refrigerators, and lingerie garments. As Amy Sandrolini, who worked with the Exodus Road, a global nonprofit aimed at rescuing victims of human trafficking, told us, it's no secret these women are living inside.
We need to wake up, start asking the tough questions.
So we did just that, pressing city officials on a number of laws, seemingly being ignored or simply not enforced.
The first law in question is about prohibiting people living inside a place of business. Our current city code requires a 220-volt stove to be on the premises in order for police to potentially shut these places down. But a hot plate or even a microwave, both of which we know are inside these spas, do not meet that criteria.
Springs police tried to shut some of the spas down that had microwaves and hot plates inside, but city code enforcers wouldn't let them because there wasn't a 220-volt stove. Seems strange, right? Despite obvious proof, these women are living inside using hot plates and microwaves to cook food, yet police can't and won't shut them down until the code is changed. The bottom line here is the code is too specific, so we brought this issue to City Councilwoman Jill Gabler.
Having this on our radar is something that we can maybe hopefully begin to prosecute the illegal activity that's going on now.
Despite our countless attempts to shine a spotlight on this apparent flaw in our city code, Gabler and her colleagues have yet to schedule a public meeting on the matter. All we kept hearing, our attorneys are looking into it. So we asked to speak to the city attorney assigned to this, Mark Smith, yet he refused our many requests. But we didn't stop. We just kept asking questions, specifically about city laws that don't make sense. Here's another one. The law requires sexually oriented businesses to register with the city, but when we asked the city clerk about this, we were told the spas do not fit within the definition of the city code for sexually oriented businesses. It doesn't fit? We found that a bit strange, given the sexual nature of these businesses clearly fits in line with several categories listed in the definition online. So we challenged this finding, as previous city busts had yielded prostitution charges, and the explicit rub map reviews have been voluntarily bragging about the sex for sale, and lastly, of course, the explicit ads for the spas. These ads candidly shocked us as they depicted sex acts online. But as if that wasn't enough, the ads also outlined in writing specific sex acts like oral, vaginal, and anal sex available for an upcharge.
It's really disgusting and it's really disturbing, honestly. I can't believe that there's even a website out here like this that rates women like this. It's so degrading.
20-year veteran massage therapists like Rianne Gaffarati, owner of a professional Springs-based massage clinic, are frustrated the illicit spas are tarnishing the industry's reputation.
You know, to me, this is not massage therapy, and it is unfortunate that they're lumping it into massage therapy. To me, this is prostitution. This is a brothel.
All spas, including those with the most explicit sale of sex, are all posted in an online directory on Cardio.com. It includes a picture of each spa, the address, and the names of the principals, which are the folks whose names were used in official documents. These principals are a group mainly consisting of Asian men in their 50s and 60s that would appear at first glance to be managers, but actually are paper tigers who appear to have power, but we didn't find them to be closely involved. In fact, tracking their addresses became difficult as many were fake or invalid. That seemed to be a trend. None of these spas seem to follow basic requirements of state law, like having a business license, for example. According to data from the Secretary of State's office, we found that 28 of the 36 active spas either were no longer registered as a business with the state, or the registration had lapsed and not been renewed. We brought this fact to the Business and Licensing Director with the Colorado Secretary of State's office, Mike Hardin. He declined our interview request and insisted the agency's hands are tied. We were then sent this statement: "We don't have the authority to investigate businesses, but provide a searchable registry for the public." This begs the question, with 77% of the spas in Greater Colorado Springs not properly registered with the state, what else are these businesses not doing? What about taxes and massage therapy licenses required by the state? Who's holding these places accountable?
Those are all questions we have answers to.
But when we come back, we'll take you back inside the spas and share the conversations we had with both the workers and the mama-sans in charge.
Welcome back. You're watching a special KRDO News Channel 13 investigation. Tonight, we're taking you through our 11-month journey examining illegal activity at Southern Colorado Asian spas.
The most disturbing aspect of our findings is how these businesses thrive off human trafficking. The women working in the spas are brought into the U.S. from Asia.
That's exactly where we left off. Investigative reporter Stephanie Sierra takes us inside these spas, uncovering the raw reality of what happens behind closed doors.
Throughout the course of this investigation, we surveilled 3 spas at random in both Colorado Springs and El Paso County. In fact, for the first one, I was parked right here watching World Spa, which is right along Clearview Frontage Road in the county. We got here at 8:30 at night and saw several men walking out of the spa. They got into their cars and drove away. But we never saw any of the women working inside leave.
It was no secret these women were living inside, but just to be sure, we wanted to speak to them directly. So I requested a massage at 3 of the spas.
Hi, do you have availability for a massage?
Yeah, is that okay?
Each of them, Rose Spa, Bangkok Thai Spa, and Royal Massage, shared explicit reviews online suggesting sex is for sale. That's according to a site called Rub Maps, which is an online directory of erotic massage parlors. We started with Rose Spa because a simple review of their website showed women prominently featured getting a massage. On April 30th of 2019, I went in.
Hi, do you have availability for a massage?
I was greeted by a woman we're referring to as Lily. This video recording on my cell phone inside my bag shows the dark room I was in.
Where are you from?
I'm in China.
That's pretty typical. Most of these women in Colorado Springs are trafficked from Asia into the U.S. through big cities on the West Coast.
Where were you before this?
Before in the California.
Most of the women we spoke to had similar answers to that question.
So what's your name? And where did you come from?
I'm called Santiago.
We're told they're often recruited from rural areas in Asia. They're attractive, but struggle from poverty, which is why they're lured in with an opportunity for a better life, more money, and the chance to give back to their family. But the reality is far from that. Amy Sandrolini, who worked with the Exodus Road, a global nonprofit in the anti-trafficking movement, saw it firsthand.
And they use force, fraud, or coercion to bring vulnerable, in this case mostly women, from countries into the United States, either on fraudulent travel documents or legal ones that might have been fraudulently obtained.
Fraud is part of the trap, but fear is a close second.
Do you think any of the women want out?
The fear to leave. It's what we saw with Lily at Rose Spa. I was in this room with her for well over our allotted time slot, making conversation about work, family, and her life today. We formed a connection and what I believe to be some sort of trust. After all, I wasn't her typical client. That's when I asked her this.
Do you live here? No, live here. No leave. No, oh, you don't leave. Yeah, don't leave.
As we saw during surveillance, most of these women are forced to live inside.
Either they're housed within that facility or there may be a rented house and all of them live together in that rented house and there's somebody that stays and kind of manages that home at all times.
That's Julie Beller, the chairman of the Human Trafficking Task Force of Southern Colorado. Of the trafficking victims she's met, their fears always the same.
To be trapped, to live in the constant fear that if immigration comes, what are you going to do? Or your family is going to be injured if you say no.
Trapped being a key word.
And they get them into these networks. In the Asian massage parlors, they tend to be a very close-knit group of owners.
The local owners seemed unconcerned about the law. As we told you, most don't have business licenses. It made us question, are these women even properly licensed with the state? Under Colorado law, massage therapists are required to be licensed with the Department of Regulatory Agencies, or DORA, and the test to obtain those credentials is only administered in English and Spanish. It's called the Massage and Bodywork Licensing Examination, or MBLEX. I requested a copy of it and sat down with Aurora's Tax and Licensing Director, Trevor Vaughn. Vaughn interviewed a number of women rescued from illicit spas in Aurora back in 2018.
Which of the following terms describes the relationship of the thumb to the humerus? Would they be able to answer that?
There is no way they'd be able to answer that. You know, based on some of these individuals we talked with, there's just no way.
So it begs the question, how did these women pass? The short answer is they likely cheated. We know that from a recent Department of Justice indictment back in May this year. The investigation found instructors at Majestic Vocational School in Aurora were allegedly falsifying credentials by creating and selling cheat sheets.
It's concerning when they're able to get licenses and they have no qualifications.
According to data from the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, 3 Colorado schools claiming to specialize in massage therapy were shut down for this type of fraud in recent years. Yet, the licenses issued from these institutions still remain valid with the state. We found this out after requesting a list of every massage therapist that graduated from a school shut down for fraud. We got a total of 66 names. I visited with several of these women, one being Jing Song, who works at a legitimate spa. I wanted to hear her side.
Did you cheat on the exam?
No.
While Song tells us she didn't cheat, she admits many of her former classmates did.
The websites from the government, the question is similar there.
And what's even more concerning is under Colorado law, the licenses issued from these fake institutions still remain valid with the state.
There's not an automatic review that occurs, even though the school may have been caught selling credentials.
It's a lack of oversight, so we went to the agency that holds the responsibility to fix this. DORA. I sat down with Nathan Batchelder, the agency's Director of External Affairs. And before I could ask a question, he started off with this.
One of the ways we're committed to our mission is by making sure candidates for licensure
actually meet the requirements set forth in law.
Yet I pointed out to him his team currently doesn't have a review process in place to verify licenses issued from schools that were shut down for fraud.
Some consider this a flaw and oversight. As the investigating agency, how do you plan to address this?
I think it's important to understand is that maybe I don't understand your question a little bit more. Is it a flaw in terms of?
Well, in terms of they're not verifying those particular licenses. There's not a review process in place.
Right, and I think that's why, again, we're open to conversations and recommendations from the community on any type of enhanced authority or regulatory purview.
Key word being enhanced authority, requiring legislative help. That's why we took this issue to State Senator Paul Lundeen.
We need to have some ability to claw that license back, or at least question it. This will be the next step. We need to do something about closing this loophole.
A crucial change, one we can hope to see this next legislative session, giving DORA the authority and resources to fix this problem.
Next, we'll tell you why we ended up in the middle of a Homeland Security bust and why the woman handcuffed is closely tied with our investigation.
Later, we'll take a global view at how Asian crime syndicates are involved with our spas here in the Springs. International crime, prostitution, human trafficking, money laundering.
This next chapter of our expose takes you with us on our journey, one that started with shocking revelations about a small spa on the east side of Colorado Springs.
That tip led investigative reporter Stephanie Sierra to track down a woman who was also being eyed by the feds, and that's when the two investigations crossed paths.
It was a 6 o'clock Frontier flight to Vegas. That's how this all started. I was actually walking through these doors of the Colorado Springs airport. That's when I got a call from police told to stand back. Why? Well, we had the same tip as Homeland Security about the same woman and happened to arrive here at the same time. But the view I was looking at 8 months ago was different.
Instead, I was looking at this. A woman in her late 40s, arrested and handcuffed by Homeland Security. Her name is Hae Kyung-so. You see her here, surrounded by 3 agents, walking her out the door. So naturally, I followed briskly behind them, recording this footage on my iPhone as they brought her and that red suitcase outside, right into this black SUV and whisked away. I replayed the video, trying to piece together her arrest and the shocking allegations made against her. So how did we end up here? Let's go back. All the way to March. Little did we know at the time, but this part of the story started here.
It was late on a Tuesday night. I was actually parked in this exact spot with my camera in hand, surveilling Paris Spa directly across the street.
We didn't know who she was at the time, let alone her ties to this spa. That's until we got a tip. Skeptical at first, we spent several days vetting this source, analyzing everything from relationships to court and legal documents. And after several meetings, we had no reason to doubt the credibility of this person.
She's doing these bad things. I don't like how she does a sexual job, like a sex manufacturer.
Those are the words of our source. But in order to protect this identity, we had someone else read these words due to fear of retaliation from this criminal enterprise. But this source had enough evidence to suggest So would bring women from her home country, Korea, to come serve as sex workers at Paris Spa, receiving little money in return.
I wish she would just stop doing this kind of job.
But the tip wasn't just about the brothel. During this conversation with our source, she said So owns 3 spas, one in Colorado Springs, Chicago, and South Carolina. The tip said So regularly money laundered upwards of $100,000 back to Korea every 3 months. Remember that initial tip claimed So would be traveling on a Frontier flight to Vegas on May 30th. And that tip came with very specific information. It included So would be traveling with extended family, the color of the clothes they would be wearing, and even warning us So would allegedly be carrying the cash inside a red suitcase to be laundered. Then, as we found out on May 30th, every part of that tip played out exactly how it was described to us. But we were still left puzzled. Was there really cash stuffed inside this carry-on? We were curious and took our questions to Homeland Security and Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE.
Is there anything you can tell us about that case? Any proof that there was actually money in that suitcase?
We sat down with Homeland Security Special Agent Steve Kagan, who works with ICE Criminal Investigations.
Why is there so much secrecy surrounding So with DOJ and ICE? We feel like it's been kind of a secretive process, and I'm just trying to understand why.
I don't have, it's not secretive for me. I just gave you the answer of she was arrested for overstaying her visa. I don't have a secretive answer for you.
So you're saying no sign of any criminal activity on that day?
What I have is that she was arrested as an overstay, and that was nothing part of a bigger, you might have been watching something different than we were, but that's what I have on that case.
So here's what we do know. After So was driven away, she was taken to the ICE detention center in Aurora. She was held there for just over a month before being released on July 10th. According to the Department of Justice, So wasn't formally charged with a crime. But according to records from ICE, So came into the U.S. through Fairbanks, Alaska in April of 2003. So overstayed her visit well over a decade. But the real question is, why seize her on this day at the airport?
We just remain so confused how someone can overstay their visa for 16 years and then be released less than 2 months after.
I don't have an answer for you.
Again, we didn't get a straight answer, but it's possible So was used as an informant. Did that secure an early release? We don't know. The DOJ and ICE have been deliberately vague about So. The only tangible paper trail we did get were property records disclosing So owned 2 other spas in other states. According to RubMaps, an online site that reviews erotic spas, the Colorado Springs Spa only took cash payments. And every review of Paris Spa made it explicitly clear the women were selling sex. That's why neighboring property owners like Brian Winslow wanted both the spa and the liability out.
It's always been very disturbing.
Following our coverage, that's what happened. Paris Spa shut down around the same time So was arrested. Following her release from ICE, we did try to speak to her, even knocked on her door, but found it to be deserted. Neighbors told me she packed up and left town. So's story serves as a good example to explain how these organized crime operations work. Remember these women we filmed outside Paris Spa? You may wonder, how did they really get here? Who are all the players involved? That's where we bring back Special Agent Kagan. His team specializes on the global view of these Asian syndicates, or as the agency refers to it.
We call it a transnational criminal organization.
How difficult is it to stop the flow of this organized crime we're talking about?
It's extremely difficult because the people that are being brought into this country, they don't know or don't believe that they're being trafficked.
As Kagan explained, these women are promised the world, brought in by recruiters known as snakeheads, affiliated with syndicates, hoping for a better job, a better life.
These folks might bring them in promising a better life and then hold on to their passport. They might have promised them the better life, but they need to pay off their fees for bringing them here. And those fees might start at $10,000 or $15,000, and we call it debt bondage.
This is where the relationship between the Asian syndicates who recruit and deliver the women to the spas gets very murky. We know there is debt owed by these women in order for them to be smuggled into the U.S. We also know they then live inside the spas and work by performing sex to pay off debt. But what even the experts have been unable to tell us is what is the financial relationship of our local spas to larger Asian organized crime syndicates. We do know the trafficked women are moved periodically. Neighboring businesses of several spas went on the record to describe what they consider an ongoing cycle.
They stay like 6-7 months, and then some guy comes and picks them up and takes them away. I don't know who he is. And then they go, and then somebody else comes in.
They bring out their suitcases.
Yes, I do.
This takes us back to the question, how do these syndicates really work? Who's physically bringing these women into the country?
They would come into the U.S. in any way that anyone else would come into the U.S. Through our airports, seaports, land borders. Either they're not a trafficking victim yet, or they don't know that they're a trafficking victim yet.
Once the women arrive in the U.S.,
through some type of fraud, force, or coercion, they're pushed into this industry, whether it be massage parlors, but we also see it in the labor industry.
And as far as who's responsible for the movement here locally, Kagan says it's all connected.
Those recruiting overseas, those bringing them in, and then those who are helping them once they get here and turning it into a trafficking situation and getting them into a massage parlor. Yes, that's all choreographed.
Choreographed through the syndicate, the criminal enterprises are calling all the shots. Let's go back in time. See, this type of organized crime is traced all the way back to Asia. They're called triads, where this woman, Sister Ping, also known as the mother of the snakeheads, reportedly smuggled thousands of people from Asia from 1984 to 2000. Ping was eventually arrested here in the U.S. and later convicted of money laundering before she died in a Texas prison back in 2014. She reportedly made $30 million smuggling, but after her arrest, human smuggling didn't stop. In fact, profits only grew. According to a 2004 report by the National Institute of Justice, the cost of smuggling people has ranged from $10,000 to $65,000. Yet U.S. analysts claim China has ignored the problem since the early 90s. There are crime syndicates operating in both Asia and America. What we don't know is if the triads operate independently, like the crime families of our mafia, or if they work cooperatively. According to research books on triad societies, there's a total of 7 of these crime organizations operating in 4 areas across the U.S. Take a look at this map. Out east, 4 operate in New York City. Their names very obscure: Green Dragons, White Tigers, Flying Dragons, and Ghost Shadows. In the Midwest, Black Jade formed in Houston, and out west, Hua Qing in San Francisco, and Black Dragons in Los Angeles. These crime syndicates do more than human trafficking. They're responsible for trafficking drugs, money laundering, and prostitution, just to name a few. A majority of the women we came in contact with told us they came from Los Angeles. While there's no direct proof, we can surmise that the Black Dragons may be the most active triad supplying women to our region.
These spas seem to be able to operate with impunity.
Undercover investigators with a global anti-trafficking nonprofit told us they believe there's widespread bribery within U.S. embassies, helping the triads get visas to trafficked women.
Is that possible?
That's one thing that I don't have any visibility into.
What is clearly visible for Kagan and his team is the process of how these women enter the U.S. Whether the visas are legitimate or not, these women are coming in pairs or sometimes groups through big cities on the West Coast. There's roughly 2 sex workers per parlor, 2 times 36. That estimate comes out to 70 women working in Greater Colorado Springs alone. You may be wondering, why are there so many here? 36 is a large number of spas for a city our size. For comparison, the entire state of Nevada, where prostitution is legal, has 21 registered brothels. That's 15 less than we do here. Here's another one. Tucson, which has a population of 80,000 more than Colorado Springs, only has 7 spas. An interesting perspective that this problem is everywhere, and it's growing. A New York Times investigation estimates there are 9,000 spas in the U.S., and it's become an estimated $3 billion a year industry. That's a lot of spas. So what's the relationship between the syndicates and the spas? Those questions are even puzzling law enforcement.
It's one of the difficult questions that we all try to answer, is how big is the problem? And that is because it's an industry that is in the shadows.
Amy Sandrolini, who worked with the Exodus Road, a nonprofit committed to fight human trafficking across the globe, agrees it's a hard question to answer.
I would love to see us as a community begin to ask the questions, come together, law enforcement, community leaders, concerned citizens, to really start to unpack why this business is flourishing.
Her team goes undercover in brothels like this one in Thailand to help rescue women.
They can have really no idea of the violence, of what it means to be raped for profit repeatedly.
These investigators see firsthand the struggle overseas. and how that same exploitation happens here at home.
It's really important to underline the connection between local and global. They are intimately connected.
And so is the demand. Brought in young, these women are moved around from city to city, used and abused. And as they grow older, they keep moving, often to smaller cities, one of their last stops being right here in Colorado.
Up next, we're picking back up in Colorado, asking a big question. What's being done now to address the issue in Colorado Springs?
There is one Colorado city that's taken an aggressive approach to shutting down these illicit spas. We'll tell you what city leaders did.
It's just before 9 a.m. on a Wednesday morning in March. Bible study is about to begin at Faith Presbyterian Church. Meanwhile, next door, VIP Spa is just opening for business. Yes, our places of worship operating next to brothels. We saw that 3 times. Illicit spas adjacent to 2 churches and a teen Bible study, like this group seen here, walking into the Cowboy Church on Easter Sunday, April 21st, right next to Lucky Massage. This group, just 3 out of the 36 spas that were active in Greater Colorado Springs back in May. Nearly all of them located in shopping centers, with businesses operating next door who want them out.
It's a big problem in the city.
It's disgusting. It's bad. It's like slavery. I thought we abolished that.
Welcome back. I'm Heather Skold.
And I'm Bart Bedsole. You're watching an hour-long investigative special of Hiding in Plain Sight.
You just heard from several business owners operating next to illicit spas in our area. Their message to us, a clear one.
It would be great if the police would recognize it as an illegal business.
You got to get those victims out of that lifestyle and free them.
Over the years, more spas have opened. There is the occasional prostitution bust. Then these businesses simply reopen under a new name. It's a never-ending cycle.
For 11 months, investigative reporter Stephanie Sierra has exposed this illegal activity, flaws in our city code, and the subsequent failure of police to eliminate these spas.
Over the past year in El Paso County, 6 women have been rescued from human trafficking. 9 spas have shut down, and now new city laws are in the works. But before any of that happened, I want to take you back in time.
After making attempts to call, I sent 36 property owners a letter. In it, specific details about the illicit reviews posted about the business operating on their land. 2 months went by. All we got was silence. So I went to speak to them in person, because this group is enabling the spas to operate with impunity.
When we were tracking down the property owners, most were in Colorado Springs, but many were here in the city of Denver and surrounding suburbs.
Are they going to continue to look the other way and allow this kind of activity?
We saw it all, from each and every property owner or registered agent leasing to these illicit spas. Some were civil.
You guys have a great day. It's good talking to you.
All I know is that he's been out of the country.
Or candidly, didn't like our questions.
Can you stop it?
Okay.
And then also, can you stop it?
What was that?
Okay, I'm not going to talk to you.
As for the others, well, they didn't make it to the door. Instead, quick on their feet to run away, close up shop, and ignore our questions.
We're looking for Sarah. Wait, he's here, he's back.
All while hiding in their home or office.
Sir, we just want to get a comment from your side.
We traveled all across the state with the intention to get all sides and alert this group of the illegal activity going on under their watch. But for most cases, what started as a simple question.
I just had a couple questions for you regarding the story we're working on.
What do you got?
Are you aware of what's going on inside? That's a whole part of the story, sir.
Quickly turned belligerent, like Michael Reeg, who we had a scheduled interview with. And hostile.
Daddy, turn that shit off. What the hell are you guys talking about?
Simply put, most of these property owners appear to feel no responsibility to stop this. Take John Litherland, for example. Unlike most property owners who lease out their entire strip mall, this man leases a single-family home he owns directly to an illicit spa.
Don't you feel you have an obligation, though, as the landlord? You have the authority here to end this.
I don't believe I have an obligation.
During the interview, I shared with him proof of the explicit reviews made about Sweet Relax Therapy.
I know this exists throughout Colorado Springs. I agree with you.
Yet, despite holding the proof in his hand, he never addresses my question.
But I believe you're incorrect.
Will you take another look? Because that's the proof for you right there.
That right there is what we saw time and time again. Why? It's all about the rental income and looking the other way, assuming no responsibility. Unlike city leaders in Aurora, who passed legislation that shut down 19 of the city's 30 illicit spas in just over a year, it became a domino effect.
And it got so bad that we had to take action.
This is Aurora City Councilman Charlie Richardson, one of the brains behind this ordinance that tightened regulation of massage parlors back in 2018. The ordinance prohibits things like people living inside the business, odd hours of operation, lingerie attire, sexual advertising online, plus requires pre-screening to verify the ownership has no prior criminal ties. See, these rules worked for Aurora, and law enforcement is enforcing it by inspecting the remaining spas. But the problem didn't go very far. As our news partners in Denver discovered, the spas forced out just reopened next door in Denver's city limits, where the rules restricting illegal activity are lax, to say the least.
Denver doesn't have a lot of regulations for massage parlors.
Trevor Vaughn works in Aurora's tax and licensing division.
I think a big part of Denver's issue is there's not a pre-screening of the business before they get a license. And additionally, when they see things that are signs of illicit massage businesses, they don't violate Denver's ordinance.
The same problems we're seeing here in Colorado Springs, which is why we're urging City Council to take action, pressing Council President Richard Scorman back in July.
Richard, where is this on your priority list?
It's a big priority, and we've all been watching the local coverage that you've been doing, and it is more of an issue than we realized, and so we want to see what options are out there.
Several Colorado Springs city staffers and attorneys traveled to Aurora to discuss how their legislation worked. Our hope was for a public meeting so the city could move forward mirroring Aurora's approach. We kept on it, Scorman and I exchanging weekly calls and emails, each conversation giving hope for progress. But after 6 months, no meeting and no true progress. Instead, we were told time and time again, our city attorneys are looking into it.
Why has it taken this long?
Well, I guess they were doing their research. I've been urging them to do it quicker, but that's how these things happen.
You know, a lot can happen in 6 weeks, yet very little has happened here in 6 months. What's being done now?
Well, what we have done, and it's really through the mayor's office as well, is to allow the city to use what we call our public nuisance ordinance.
According to the city code, this ordinance that's already in place allows police to investigate any business that meets the criteria for a public nuisance. That criteria would include any illegal activity, prompting citations, subsequent investigations leading to eviction.
And we can shut down the business and board up the door and seize the property. There's really no bigger remedy out there than that.
So were you pleased with Aurora's results, shutting down 19 spas?
Yes, very much. The issue about that, though, is whether they're going to open up somewhere else, and that's the issue that we may be dealing with here.
Well, these businesses may be shut down under the public nuisance ordinance, but the legislation won't prohibit these spas from just reopening down the street. We've seen it time and time again in the city. It's not solving the problem.
Well, that's all we can do. I mean, I think Aurora probably has similar situations.
Well, they actually don't, because the ordinance is much more specific. I'm reading it right here. It prevents that business from reopening for at least 2 years.
And that's a part that I really do, I think, want to look at as a city council. I think that 2-year timetable, but let's first see if they do.
With the Aurora legislation seemingly off the table, our focus shifted to the public nuisance ordinance. An obvious question being, if this is already in effect, why haven't police been enforcing it? We requested an interview with Colorado Springs Police Chief Vince Niski, but he refused to speak to us. According to a records request, in early December, we learned that the Colorado Springs Vice Squad audited, which is the police term, 18 of the spas over the past year and a half to verify if these businesses had valid massage therapy licenses, which is required under state law. 11 of the 18 spas failed the audit and were cited. Yet police are not required to go back and check if the spas cited are now in compliance, which begs the question, what's the point? During the audit, Dream Spa and One Spa were busted for prostitution. Yet nothing changed. Both fully operational, with recent online reviews, including one this month, revealing in explicit detail sex is still for sale. The only thing that did change, Dream Spa is now Ocean Dream Spa. So, back to the question, did police move to shut them down under the public nuisance ordinance? The answer is no. We were again refused an on-camera interview with police. But I did email Lieutenant John Koch, who oversees the Vice Unit, to find out why these spas were not shut down. He responded by saying the spas cited for prostitution have not been deemed a public nuisance. Yet, that's not what the city's legal definition of a public nuisance states. In fact, prostitution, soliciting prostitution, pandering, keeping a place of prostitution, pimping, or public indecency is the first section listed. This begs the final question. If being busted for prostitution does not prompt these spas to shut down, what does? According to the ordinance, 2 or more instances of illegal activity is required in order for the legislation to be enforced and the spas to shut down. But the nuisance ordinance is now the chosen solution. We also asked about another ordinance not being enforced, which bans living where you work.
You know, it's not solving the problem. What's your response to that?
Well, yeah, it doesn't make sense. So, yeah, we could certainly change that if that's something that we have the ability to manage. Yeah, that certainly makes sense.
As far as we know, there's still 19 spas that have yet to be investigated by police. To put it in perspective, audits to verify massage licenses were not even a requirement until July of last year. Before that, any investigation to check for things like prostitution was done at random, but never required. What also wasn't required was checking for a valid business license, which we know 80% of our spas don't have. So at this point, neither the state or the city is checking for business licenses. But as Scorman pointed out, our police department is facing its own challenges.
Well, one of the issues is that we're just short-handed in the police department. 120 officers short.
120 officers short. It makes sense why police are struggling to investigate a problem that's only growing in our community. But what may be even more concerning is the projected solution to fix this problem. We talked to dozens of neighboring business owners like Lita Levitt, who questions how effective the public nuisance ordinance will be.
As long as we stay complacent about it, they're just going to continue to shut down, turn off their open signs, go away, and then come back the next month and open up again.
Moving elsewhere in the city or the county. A never-ending cycle. That's why we tried to take this issue directly to Sheriff Bill Elder, who also refused our interview. So we then called the chair of the El Paso County Commission, Mark Waller, who agrees a long-term solution is needed.
Just a circumstance of whack-a-mole. You shut one down in this house, then it just pops up again here. You shut it down there, it pops up again somewhere else. I think the only way that we're going to be able to deal with this issue of human trafficking, and deal with it correctly, is to really turn a very bright spotlight on it and say, if you engage in this act, we are going to prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law.
Shining a spotlight.
Illegally offering more than massage.
It's what our investigation did, pressuring City Council, the state, and as we later found out, the Johns too.
And you're not worried about getting busted again?
Between the commercials on TV to the cameras surveilling these spas, word spread of the KRDO effect. This term used in online reviews where men complained sex was no longer for sale. Yes, a real legal massage was the only offer for a time. Yet, the Johns were never our focus. It was always about helping these victims.
Do you think any of the women at Lily want out?
The women working and living inside these places. All the workers we met were foreign. We believe some are here by choice, but others aren't, wanting to escape. Just ask Deputy District Attorney Jennifer Darby.
There are some illegitimate massage parlors that are preying on women, that are
using them almost as indentured servants.
But following our coverage, 9 spas have shut down, and 6 women have been rescued from those situations tied to human trafficking. We were not told what spas the women came from, but we know after their prostitution arrest, their charges were dropped, and they were given a chance for a new life, one that doesn't involve slavery. I'm Stephanie Sierra.
On more than one occasion, we were told city attorneys were concerned about being sued by the spas if they enacted the Aurora law, but Aurora has yet to face any litigation. The city attorney's office here refused to comment.
Going forward, we will be watching the city to see if they are able to shut down these houses of prostitution hiding in plain sight.
Before we go, we'll leave you with this.
You may choose to look the other way, but you can never say again you did not know.
Hello? Does a woman named Tina work here?
Tina no more. Tina no more.
Tina no more?
Yeah, Tina no more.
What happened to Tina?
I don't know. I'm
need-
sorry, no English.
So did Lucy work here at one point?
I don't know. I'm new here, so I don't know Lucy.
Okay.
So before, I don't know. So Lucy, I think so. I'm new here, and Lucy go. I don't know.
And you can see where it says sex acts for sale on this website right here.
No, we don't.
Well, it does say
No,
that.
we don't.
Are you?
I don't know where you get it.
And
but
you're not
we
worried
don't.
about getting busted again?
We do not do none of that.